Welcome to episode 106 of the Camerosity podcast, the world's one and only open source film and digital photography podcast. My name is Mike Ekman, and we are back at a special time. It is 2 p.m. here at Camerosity HQ, and for today's episode, we switched time zones to be more accommodating to our friends in Europe and other Europe-friendly time zones. Will we get many European listeners, or will it just be a bunch of Americans who go to bed early? We'll find out in less than 30 seconds. We've had some pretty exciting discussions these last few episodes, including a fascinating one with John Menix about his Aero Liberator large format camera, and before that, a discussion about cheap Chinese lenses. For today's episode, we are keeping the topic wide open for anything you want to talk about. Let's catch up with some people we don't often get to talk to and just see how it goes. As always, we have the usual selection of hosts. Theo barely rolled out of bed, as it is 6 a.m. Tuesday morning for him, and Anthony is in the middle of a severe thunderstorm, so we have no idea if his internet connection will hold up. For Paul, Steven, and Mike, it's just past lunch, so we should be good to go. I can see the waiting room is filling up, so let's hit the admit all button and get started. All right, the room filled up quickly. Holy smokes. We've got a bunch of familiar faces. At the top of the list is Mr. Pat Casey, whose birthday it is today. Happy birthday, Pat.
Thank you very much. Happens every year, no matter what else I do.
I know, you can't stop it, huh? I'm just going to go through here. There's a bunch of people. We got Wayne Scheipers. We got Vlad Kern, Norris Liu, Leon Mamp from Discord, Josh Calvetti, Brendon Wilson, Stuart Pratt, Krijn Vogelaar. I recognize your name, but I apologize. Have you been on the show before?
Hello, everyone. My name is Krijn Vogelaar. I'm from Holland, and it's the first time I'm on your show.
Awesome. I've seen your name before, but welcome to the show. From Holland, huh? Awesome. Kamil, Kamil. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, that's correct. My name is Kamil. I'm originally from Poland, but I live in north of Norway, Tromsø. This is the first time on the show.
Awesome.
I'm great fun.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to make it so that you could join us from Norway. I think it might be our first Norwegian caller. I don't think we've had one before. All right, cool. And Fernando Villava from the German country, but also host of Camerosity in Spanish. So
Exactly.
welcome everybody. You know, we decided to do this because, you know, we don't get to do it nearly enough. And, you know, it's just, as you might imagine, with as many hosts and all that goes into this, switching times is difficult for us. But we're happy to have a lot of you guys here, some familiar faces, some new faces. And, you know, we don't have a specific topic we're going to go over. So, you know, really, I just thought kind of we'd maybe get started. As always, I have stuff that I could talk about, but enough from me. Kamil, since you're still at the top of the list there, what do you shoot? Like, what is your favorite type of camera to play with?
I don't know how to start.
That's okay. What do you got in front of you? Anything?
Yeah, so actually, this is not my first analog camera. I forgot to pick this one up because I started shooting with Olympus Mu Zoom when I was 10, I guess. I picked this one up from my sister. That's been more than 20 years ago already. Ever since then, sometimes I was picking it up with a lack of a digital camera. When I was a kid going on school trips, I was feeling like that was a bummer to use a analog camera, like a small point and shoot with film in 2006. I was not cool kid on the block. But then I realized later that actually I'm the one to still review the images and keep them after they've been developed. And when I scanned them or like just shared with my friends the printed versions, everyone would be just like so out of their mind about how not only like how I brought these pictures up, but also of how much quality was it.
Yeah.
And that was with a silly Olympus Mu Zoom with this ring of fire effect that maybe some of you know. So it's not the most fancy Olympus Mu with the fixed lens, but I was still having a lot of fun shooting it. Even recently when I picked it up from home, I was so stoked to find it in drawer of my parents. That was brilliant. But one of my favorite cameras is this one. It's a Minolta Dynox 5. Yeah, it has alpha. cap, but is actually a small Minolta Dynex 5 or Maxim 5 with a 50 milliliter fixed lens from the 80s. And maybe it's not as fancy as some of the cool kids on the block, older Minoltas with rocker lenses, but this is like little crazy camera that can do a lot of stuff.
I actually have the Dynex 5. It's not a camera I've ever written a review about because it falls into that category of cameras that there's already so much information out there from. But that really is a nice little fantastic camera. It was like a advanced prosumer kind of model. It didn't have professional chops or anything, but it was a step up from like an entry level SLR, and it can do pretty much everything. And I've always liked that kind of two-tone look that it has.
I know that some people are also really thrown off by that silver finishing. I honestly don't mind, although I would say that maybe the whole black editions of it that are, I guess they were maybe released only in Japan.
And you have the battery adapter, which is great. No?
Oh yeah, this one has, yeah. So I was pretty lucky to buy it on like second-hand market in Poland with the battery pack on it as well.
Because it looks like an accessory motor drive, but that camera already has an electric motor drive, so it's just a whole bunch of extra batteries for increased life.
Yeah, this is a tiny little devil. If you detach this one and have these really expensive tiny batteries, I guess you could fill it in a pocket and it's like a full working SLR, except it has really crappy viewfinder. Yeah, I wanted to say that is actually, yeah, maybe like these late film era SLRs that got produced in the age when DSLRs started to surface. Maybe they are not the coolest, but they're really easy to use.
You said, I love the story you said about your Olympus Mew. You know, it was 2006 and you felt like you were left behind and you weren't one of the cool kids. In reality, you were ahead of the curve and you were already going back to film before it was cool to do that. And the Olympus Muse, I think of any camera probably that's ever been made, it's the one that's ascended in price compared to what it originally sold for, probably the most. So not only are you the cool kid now, but you have something that if you ever were to want to get rid of, you'd be able to get more for it than you would have ever way back then. So that's a really cool story and one that is exciting to hear.
Yeah, I'm honestly really happy, but also I would never let go of this.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Fully tiny zoom. Yeah, but I wanted to say actually that the Camerosity had really fun overview over several decades of different cameras, but you never really mentioned the 2000 film cameras. And I got prepared a little bit for that podcast because I brought also a Nikon F80.
That's a nice camera.
I just so much stoked. Well, honestly, like these two are my two favorites because they didn't only cost me next to nothing. I paid for this one something like $20, close to it. For this one, I got the gelded Nikon Nikkor 50mm f1.4 lens in second-hand shop, also for around $20, which is this is way better lens than what someone could suspect. Like these things cost pennies, but they actually are capable of amazing things.
He's holding up an F80, which in North America was the N80, but that one, like the Dynex 5, is also two-tone. So is that a theme that you like two-tone cameras, or did it just kind of work out that way?
Oh, it's just an accident.
Okay, very neat. Yeah, those are nice. Theo, have you shot one before?
Yes, I have. The F80 is a really nice camera, which has got, if I remember correctly, it's got this nice little feature where you can actually imprint, if you got the right back, you can actually imprint the exposure details between the frames.
Oh, this one's without one. It just has the classic sticky back on it.
But that just shows you how advanced that camera was. It's got the full 3D matrix metering. The exposures are really nice. And it's just a really nice light camera to use. And you mentioned you've got the G lens on it, so it also gives you the option of using G lenses with Nikon, which because it's got the aperture control on the actual camera with your front finger.
One of the best things about the N7, N80, and F80 was that it wasn't an N70, which was the
Oh, come on, Paul.
most horrible camera that Nikon ever produced.
He hates that one.
And you remember that, Mike?
I remember you talking about how much you hate it.
Oh,
Yeah.
there were like three buttons on the top right where the shutter release is that you have to push in sequence to make it do different things, and nobody could remember which button did what. So even people who worked in stores and tried to sell them couldn't figure it out. But they fixed that with the N80.
The N80 is very nice. It's got, I think, if I remember correctly, the same body as the D40, the digital camera, which was actually my very first DSLR. So when I got introduced to digital SLRs, I had actually had a D40X, but it was basically the same thing.
Yeah.
And then I found the N80, which the body is physically the same, just obviously the guts are different. And that really appealed to me because early on, when I was still a film noob, I was already adjusted to DSLRs, and being able to go backwards in a film camera that felt incredibly familiar to me was a huge appeal. And, really the control layout, even in 2026 for DSLRs, hasn't really evolved much past that. So to somebody like right now looking to get into an inexpensive Nikon film SLR that's modern and won't completely throw you off if maybe you're intimidated by the classic mechanical cameras, the N80 and the F80 is absolutely a great option to go for. Some people might tell you like the F100, but to me that camera, half the time it's broken or it's missing a battery compartment and it's a lot more expensive. But I think you can still find the N80s and F80s for really, really cheap. You're gonna pay more for the lens and you're gonna pay for the camera. But that's a great recommendation.
The actual F80 body was directly used for the Fujifilm FinePix. The S2 Pro and S3 Pro were both exactly F80 bodies, just built into digitals. And then when Nikon made them, the D100 was kind of close but changed. And even the D40, it's definitely a smaller camera. They continued with the same idea, but the Fujifilm cameras are both actual F80 bodies purchased from Nikon by Fujifilm and then modified into digital.
I think maybe the Pro 14 was also.
Oh, yes, the Kodak, yeah.
Which was, the first full frame, I don't want to say the first, but it was one of the first full frame Nikon mount DSLRs. I think that was on the D80 chassis.
Yeah, definitely.
But this is also something I wanted to bring up actually with when it comes to the digital analog to digital shift. I guess, well, I'm in my 30s and many people my age probably never shot film. Quite many into photography hobbies that started already with digital. And so when I was shooting my little Olympus, I was just using it as a snapshot camera. And I always had like a desire to dip my toes deeper into a photography hobby, but never really had means. Eventually early in this decade, shortly after COVID, I just realized that I really want to have like a proper camera. So I got myself a Sony mirrorless and I started to collect lenses for it. I got into like really deep digital gear acquisition syndrome. But then at some point, I just realized that they changed the field of view, but they're all super sharp. One day I came upon some Minolta lenses. There was like a sale of Minolta 7000 with beer can lens, fixed 50 milliliter, fixed 28 milliliter, and a tiny beer can. It was being sold for $100 equivalent. And I just thought, oh, like, sure, why not? I checked it out and it came up to like somewhere to my view that there is actually adapter made by Sony for these lenses to work with all of the autofocus functions on Sony mirrorless camera. That's like, well, from the last generation. And I got these and I was stoked with the quality, with the fun of it. And then I also got this little Dynex 5 Beast and started to play with film. I soon after signed up for a photography course in the or not photography course, but the darkroom course in the Tromsø Photo Club, which is a local photography club. And I just went, I fell in love with film.
You found the right podcast. I mean, the thing that really makes me the happiest is from people on the show and on Facebook and Discord who blame us for buying stuff. And I'm always happy to help other people spend their money. So hearing your story is the exact thing that makes me the most excited, hearing that discovery, both from the $10 pickups to stuff that you had back from the film era. So I think you're definitely on the right track.
Yeah, so I also wanted to mention that when I was deep into my digital acquisition syndrome, gear acquisition syndrome phase, I started to listen Classic Lenses podcast. That was in 2022, I think. And then I went into Camerosity, and it was, it's really weird to say, but it was actually calming my gas down.
Oh no!
Because
that's
I realized there's so much of really cool stuff that can be had for pennies. My digital gas just diminished.
There goes Paul's marketing strategy.
Yeah, we rose from their ashes. It was a nice transition. I've talked about the origin story of the show so many times, I won't repeat it, but those were fun times. But I want to move on. We have a lot of people here. While Kamil was talking, John Wade jumped in. John was last on episode 93, author of a huge number of camera books. Always fascinating to hear what you have to think, John. Welcome back.
Hi. Yeah. Hi, Mike. Nice to see you again.
How you doing? Anything new from you? Any new books?
Well, it's always something. The main thing that's new is I've given up writing books.
Okay.
because I've reached an age which I don't particularly want to mention, but it begins with a figure 8, and I've decided books are too much effort for so little return. But I'm still writing articles for a magazine here in the UK called Amateur Photographer, and one of the things I'm writing about at the moment is Ilford. Now, I should imagine that quite a lot of people around the world would have heard of Ilford in terms of the film they made and the darkroom papers. Might not know that the Ilford name appeared on quite a lot of cameras. When I say it appeared, they didn't actually make them. They commissioned them from other engineering works, etc. And I was particularly interested because Ilford is named after a town. In fact, when Ilford Limited was first started, it was a village. Then it became a town in a county here in the UK called Essex, and now it's part of a greater a London borough. But it was also the town next to the one where I was born. I was born in a town called Barking. Ilford was down the road. Anyway, that's why I was interested in Ilford, one of the many reasons. And the camera which really sort of got me going on it, and it's very heavy, so I'm going to bring it into view now. And this is an Ilford KI monobar, and it's very heavy, so I'm not going to hold it up too much.
That's pretty.
Mike, we had one of those from Kurt. Did
we?
Yeah, I got it. I had it.
Oh, man.
That's an amazing camera, John.
It is indeed. It's got all the movement. It's a monorail camera, and it's got all the movements you'd expect from a monorail camera. Tilt, shift, rise, fall, etc., which I'm not going to demonstrate because to do so I'd have to put it on a tripod and use two hands, and it's bad enough trying to pick it up. But the thing that makes it so unusual amongst monorail cameras, I'll pick it up again, is right at the back here. Am I holding it up? You can see a compartment that holds the film, and the film is 35mm. So it's one of the very few monorail cameras which took 35mm film. And what you did was, again, I'm going to pick it up again. There we go. Again, you can see at the back, there's a little tube sticking out the back, if you like. That is a magnifier, and the cream bit in front of it is the place where the film goes. Now you pull back this little piece here and take out the film carrier, push the other bit in, and then you've got a focusing screen with a magnifier where you can focus it. Then you pull that back, you put the film container in, you push it forward, release a little dark side, and off you go. And it's a truly lovely camera. And I've been after one for years. And when I started writing the article, that was my reason for buying it. So that's one of my interests at the moment. If I may, I'll give you very briefly a little tiny bit more about a camera that I only bought 2 days ago. And I love cameras that have got a story behind them. Very, very briefly, in the 1940s, 1950s, in the UK, there was quite a famous botanist, member of the Royal Botanical Society, etc., and his name was, I've got it written down here somewhere because I keep forgetting it. His name was Stanley Jermyn. As I say, he gave lectures to the Royal Botanical Society, etc. He wrote books on botany and flora and fauna, and he hadn't got a camera. So he approached his brother, whose name was Leonard Jermyn, who was an engineer, to build him a camera, with which he took pictures and used them to illustrate the various talks he gave. And one of the things I'm always interested in, apart from a camera's got a story, is a camera if it's a one-off, if it's specially made. And so this is what I acquired, and this was his camera. Evidently, he died back in the 70s, and it all went back to his brother, Len, who died in 1974, and then was inherited by his nephew, who is now about 109 by the look of it when I saw him. And he put it on eBay, along with all his slides, all his stereo slides in a cabinet and some homemade stereo viewers. So it's homemade.
It's a homemade stereo camera.
Homemade stereo camera.
Lenses are on there.
I would imagine that the lens and the shutter assembly is from something else.
Sure.
And he probably built the bit on the back. 35mm, of course. If anyone can identify that faceplate, where it comes from, I'd be very grateful. All I can tell you about it is it's French. And I know that because there's a lot of French written on it. So there we are. An unknown named camera.
We have also here Ira Cohen, who, of anybody I know, has probably the largest selection of one-off prototype / Franken cameras.
Who I actually noticed was taking notes when that was actually
taking notes. Yeah. Yeah. John, you're probably going to get an email from Ira in case you ever want to get rid of it. He's going to be the person who's probably going to come after you for it.
Yeah, Ira is a name that I know. We've never obviously met. There's quite a few thousand miles of sea between us, but I believe we might have corresponded before now.
We have. I got your book, and then I wound up getting the Ray prototype.
Yes. Well, you've got.
That's what we spoke about.
Which one have you got? Oh yes, which one? Which one? Because I've got 2 or 3 Ray prototypes.
Yeah. Well, I only got one.
The 35mm one, the little black one, which I think is called the Owl.
Yeah.
Is it black all over? Is it all black?
Good question. Why did they come in other colors?
Well, they only made, as far as my knowledge is, 6 of the black ones. But I've come across 2 which have got chrome tops on them. Apart from that 6, because
no, mine's black.
Yes, that's good because I knew that's the one had gone out of the country, so you've got it, and I know where the other 5 are, and 2 of them are in my collection. So there you go. We must talk sometime because I do have quite a lot of one-off cameras and prototypes. There you go.
I have one entire cabinet in my room here is devoted to what Mike calls Franken cameras. Some of them are obviously homemade. Some of them look like they were made by an enterprising engineering student, and a couple of them actually look like real factory prototypes.
Yeah, very much the same as me, but I don't think I've got as many as you. I have a very nice panoramic camera which was made from a Ray stereographic, and that is a beautiful piece of engineering, and I've used it as well.
Well, Ira, Franken camera is the American name for it. If it's a German camera, then we call it an Eigenbau.
Eigenbau, right. and the only reason I call it an Eigenbau is because when I bought my very first one, it came with a very lengthy letter in German from the seller, and that's what he called it. So I just called it that after what he said.
And I wrote an article on that same camera, Ira, when you let me play with it, and I have a copy of that letter in the article. It's written entirely in German, but that's an amazing piece of provenance, especially for a one-off camera like that.
Yeah, it's called a cutlet for all the Soviet cameras. Actually, that's a pretty ripe ground for a lot of homemade cameras because a lot of publications in USSR had instructions how to build those. So you'll find like a lot of like stereos manas and stuff like that in that territory.
Yeah, he's holding it up. Ira is. I mean, you'll get a good picture of it. I'll include a link in the show notes, but that falls into the category of maybe not quite a prototype, but whoever built that really was a talented machinist, and he was able to create a distinct, that big knob on top is the film advance, I think. Yeah, it's really neat looking, and that's when you showed it to me. I handled that camera in person, and I was just really smitten by it. So that's a really cool find.
And it's covered by genuine Crockegator leather.
And that's not from the factory. It's confirmed homemade.
There is no factory.
he's got a letter from like the sister or daughter of who made it, and it's like written entirely like about where she got it from. So it's really neat.
I mean, must have been done in factory environment, because I mean, I do not see this being done at home.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is very, very high quality.
You know, it's funny because there are machinists out there that make stuff. Let me just give you a little preview of one I have. This thing is an incomplete solid brass prototype for a 35 millimeter camera. It looks like it would be about 100 exposures to the roll. And I'd love to find the machinist that knew how to finish it. You can see all the good stuff here.
And this is before the CNC machines.
Yeah. This is all like, he cut out each piece of metal.
May I just come back and cut in and show this to Ira?
It's not nice to make me drool all over my keyboard. It makes the keys sticky.
Yes, this started life as a Ray stereographic, which you can probably see.
Yeah.
And it was made by a gentleman who was very good at making stereo cameras, and he put this bit on the front of it, stuck that lens on it, and a shutter release there.
For the people at home, I would try to describe this to you, but I don't know that I can. So that's a stereo camera, but with a single lens?
No, it was.
Yeah, it's basically got a lens plate that goes out probably maybe 4 inches, and it's and so it's like a square cone that sort of comes out all the way, and replacing the two lenses.
Here in the back, can you see that?
It's big panoramic. Okay.
It was for a stereo pair, and he's taken out the middle and turned it into a panoramic format. There you go.
Well, we have covered an extreme swing from the consumer-friendly Nikon F80 to prototype one-off homemade cameras, which proves, how much there is in this hobby. So really exciting. Now, are you writing articles about these for Amateur Photographer right now, John?
Yes, I am indeed. I've just finished one on the Ilford stuff I just told you about. Wrote the panoramic camera. I've had a year or so, and I did a complete article on that. So it's so those things do fascinate me.
Well, for anybody listening, if you're not familiar with John, you could pretty much just go to Amazon or any place that sells books and search for his name. And if John didn't write the book himself, I know you've collaborated with a lot of people too. Sometimes your name is added on to certain books. I mean, do you know like roughly how many publications have your name on it? Do you have like a ballpark?
For writing, editing, and contributing to about 30, 35. But actual books that I've written fully about, 17, 20 maybe.
That's still really impressive, though. There's just
if anyone wants to look at my website, which is very easy to remember, it's just johnwade.org, johnwade.org. There's a full list there of all my books.
John, this morning I was looking on YouTube at the AP Art Deco camera episode.
Yeah, I'm there as well.
That one, the Art Deco episode was terrific. Really enjoyed. And we talked about some of those cameras, and it prompted me to add this to my collection. It's the Kodak Brownie Model F, which is called the coffee and cream camera because of the color. It's brown and sort of a mottled tan. It's one of the coolest Kodak cameras, I think, of that era. And it was made in the UK.
Yeah.
So that one was
very pretty.
Yeah. It's a 620 Model F.
I have a quick question about cameras made in England. Did Kodak impose 620 on UK as well as on us, or how did that go?
Oh yes. I mean, Kodak had the first 620 camera, didn't they? It's a little folder. I think it was just called the Kodak 620, wasn't it? I can't remember now.
Well, that's interesting. Even in the British market, they didn't go with 120. They insisted on 620. I didn't realize that.
Come to think of it, most of the 620 cameras I can think of probably had the Kodak name on them.
How did they start the 620 film anyway, if 120 was fine?
Because it's got much slimmer spindle. It is 120 size, but the spindle is much thinner. Therefore, the radius of the film spool is the diameter is thinner, and you can make a slimmer body. Simple as that.
If you want to listen to the practical answer, what John said is correct. It does allow for thinner cameras, but from a more conspiracy, aspect of it, Kodak couldn't make profits off of 120 film when other people made it. But by creating their own 620 spool, they were able to get more of a share for each roll that was sold. So it was done both for a convenience and a financial reason.
Sounds like the new Coke conspiracy.
Kodak was very good at that. Kodak, because don't forget, they did the same with 828, and then they did it with Instamatic 126, and then they did it with 110.
And even back in the 20s, they have 116 and 616. I presume that was sort of the same pattern.
Yeah, there were so many film numbers.
Well, you mentioned Ilford, and the same thing applies to Kodak and probably to a lesser extent Agfa and Fuji. But these are all film companies. These were usually chemicals type companies that did other things. And film was their bread and butter, so to speak. And you can sell more film if more people buy your cameras. So when you look at Kodak's history specifically, and I just say that because I'm just more familiar with it, but for the most part, anytime there was a new film that came out, Kodak always had a camera for it. So whether you're talking about Instamatic, Pocket Instamatic, even 35 millimeter with the Kodak Retina, they always had something to sell you whenever they had something new coming out. So we think of Kodak and Ilford as makers of cameras, and yes, they did that. However, that wasn't their primary goal. John, when you first started talking about Ilford, I was like, man, don't show me another Witness. But thankfully you didn't bring up a Ilford Witness, because that's a camera that's come through my hands twice, and I really want one. But it is Norris has probably got a better chance of finding an Ilford Witness than I do.
You can find them in the UK if you happen to have £10,000.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I don't.
and I was handling one last week, but I don't have one.
Yeah, Norris, have you seen the Ilford Witness?
Not in person, online, and I haven't been able to have the heart to pull the trigger.
Yeah, they're tough.
It's expensive.
They're tough. Yeah, they're very nice though. Well, thanks, John. Let's Kay Vogelaar.
Talking about Ilford cameras, I have Ilford Witness. It's also a nice camera. It's one of the first viewfinder cameras for 35mm with a 35mm lens, I believe. And it's still working and giving nice results.
Yeah, the Advocate has a 35. You said 35mm film, but it's a 35mm lens on that.
Yes,
that was one of the first mass-produced fixed-length wide-angle cameras.
Yeah. But the thing I want to show you is my Agfa Automatic 66.
Now that's a pretty camera.
It's a very pretty camera. I got it in Belgium a couple of years ago, and the seller only asked 80 euros. So I said, well, please send
that's
me.
a steal.
It's a steal. And it still works fine. It's an automatic shutter. It works with air. I don't know how exactly, but it still works fine. I used it, and it's giving great results. It's a real fantastic camera. They're only 2,000 made, and I even have the original manual.
The auto exposure system in that camera was developed by an Italian company called Durst, and they had a couple cameras that used a similar system too, where there's an air piston that acts as the shutter delay. I don't completely understand how it works, but if you think of any kind of cylindrical piston, there's some kind of like O-ring or something in there that it's amazing that it hasn't rotted out. So the fact that yours still works is, unless it's been replaced at some point, but that's really cool.
But it depends on the working of the selenium meter, but it still works fine.
Wow. So you have two things working against you on that. You have the selenium meter, whether it's dead or not. Then you have the piston. 3, I guess, if you count the bellows rotting out. So it's hard to find those in good shape.
Yeah, true. And the second one I want to show you is one of the smallest TLR cameras. It's the Minicord from Goertz. It's an Austrian factory. Actually, it has ground glass. And this one also still works fine. It has a very silent shutter. You really have to put it next to your ear to hear it work. But I never used it. So it's for 16mm film, and I never used it. But it looks brand new to me.
I think they made those in 3 different colors.
I had the brown one.
There was a brown one, a black one, and I believe a gray or green version. They were just beautifully made cameras.
Yeah.
Very nice. F2 lens.
Yeah, it has an f2 lens indeed, and then the shutter goes to 400. It's a very fast shutter.
I did a review of one. I've actually shot mine. It produces nice. I mean, they're small. They're the equivalent of a 110 camera in terms of image size, but with the really good lens. And I don't know what your options are over in the UK, but here in the States, the film photography store sells a variety of single and double perforated 16 millimeter films that you could use, and that you have to roll it yourself. So you need to make sure you have the cassette, because sometimes you can find those, and if you don't have the cassette, it's going to be pretty hard to use. But if someone's looking to get the Gores mini cord, make sure it's got a cassette in it if you want to try and shoot it.
Well, I have something very weird I want to show you. I had some old Brownie box cameras. They were heavily used, and I wanted to throw them away, but then I thought I can give them a repaint. And I tried to make an art repaint out of it. So I made this. And so some people really hate me doing this, but
I'm throwing it away.
That looks fantastic.
I think that's cool.
I sort of like it. So did you strip the covering off?
No, I cleaned it very well, and I just used paint to some red-haired ladies on it.
No, I like it. I think that's cool. It's certainly different.
For listeners' sake, he's got a box camera which he's painted over, and he's got two red-haired ladies on it, and it looks very Picasso-ish. I see someone's actually put that comment in the notes here, and it looks fantastic. So anyone that hates it, just they can look at something else.
And for those keeping score at home on the sideline chat here, I'm just reading the comments, and we all appear to like it too. So
everyone loves it. Great, the Picasso camera, yeah, something like that. Thanks.
Painted cameras don't bother me. I mean, some people really get bent out of shape when you change anything original. And I mean, it can be tastefully done, it can be untastefully done, but it doesn't bother me when I see people customizing. I think you did a great job.
Thanks.
Very cool. I see, and behind you, there's like a hexagonal storage thing on that shelf with some colorful cameras. Are those other ones you painted?
Yes. I can show you another one. Just a minute.
Clearly, this is something you've done a couple times. He's got a red and yellow. Maybe is that a Zeiss?
I have another Kodak. I painted it red and yellow, the Kodak colors.
Oh, also Camerosity colors too. So
yeah, true. And I have some houses painted on it. You see,
you're very talented.
Some old houses.
You try selling those things on Etsy. That's exactly the kind of wares that they have there.
Yeah, actually, today I met someone. I was trying to get rid of a bunch of, let's say, common cameras that I got from auctions and lots. This lady came and bought about 10 of these box cameras from me. And I asked her, what do you do with them? She said, I don't care if they don't work. She makes artwork of them where she plants moss and succulent with these box cameras and sell them at the local art fairs for like $75 each. And they actually look pretty good.
Very nice. Brendon Wilson, welcome.
Hello.
Anything new since the last time we spoke to you?
I got one of the Mandler 35mm f2 LT or Leica M lenses. Looks a lot like a pretty faithful representation, but the image quality is a little different than a real Summicron.
Those have been selling out very quickly. I remember you mentioned wanting one, and it was sold out at that time, and they were talking about restocking in a couple of weeks. And when you got it, did it sell out within a few hours of you ordering yours?
Yeah, I didn't go back and look, but when I ordered mine, I refreshed the page within like 9 seconds, and like there was 9 of the one I wanted left. I guess I did look back like maybe an hour later, and there was a couple without any accessories, but I wanted the accessories. So yeah, I got lucky. I got one.
Hey, Steven, is there any updates like since our last episode about Nikon's war against the AF makers? Because we talked about that briefly.
No. So far, they've just been going after Viltrox, and other companies are continuing to produce and sell and offer lenses. Like I know you picked up a Mikey lens, and those seem to still be offered for sale, although some retailers are a bit concerned that they might be disappearing, that if Nikon might be waiting to see what happens with the Viltrox case before going after anyone else, just only spend the money on one lawsuit at a time, and we're all kind of waiting to see what's going to happen there.
Well, that's why I asked, because I have the Mikey lens. Right after that show, I gassed myself. See, it happens to us too. But I bought the 85 f1.8. They also make a 1.4, but the f1.8 85mm and Nikon Z mount autofocus lens still, I think, at the U.S. Amazon is $139.99. And, I knew what to expect. I knew it'd be lightweight. I knew this isn't the lens that I could rough and tumble and will stand up to a lot of abuse. But boy, is it nice. It focuses really fast. And my son does martial arts, and where he practices, it's all like horrible fluorescent lighting, and digital cameras, like cell phone cameras, just really, really struggle getting anything that looks even remotely good when they're in there. So I thought, all right, I'm gonna get this 85 1.8 lens, put it on my Z5, my Nikon Z5. I cranked up the ISO to like a reasonable amount, and I put it in aperture priority mode and just set it at F. I've tried f1.8 and f2, and I've gotten some fantastic shots. I mean, they turned out amazing. I showed him a couple of them to his instructor, and he's used to seeing the crappy cell phone pictures, that almost never turn out. And I'm not completely dissing on cell phone pictures, but in the lighting that you have to work with in this gym, which is terrible, I was able to get some really great images, and that's the specific reason I bought that lens. So for 139, it's an incredible value. And while I don't necessarily support Nikon attacking third-party vendors, because that's not their history to do that, I can kind of understand why they might want to do it, because there's just no profit. And that, like, how do you compete with companies making really good lenses at that price point? Because certainly it's not perfect. I think, Brendon, you talked about some of the consumer friendly lenses you bought, and they flare poorly when pointed at the sun. But for specific use scenarios like I was using it for, I'm really, really happy.
Yeah, I'm currently using the 7 Artisans 35 millimeter 1.8 on my ZF. It doesn't focus as good as a Nikon lens. It's just not as accurate. But the image quality is good enough for what I paid. Hopefully the result of this lawsuit is just that the Viltrox lenses have to be a little more expensive, and not that they have to stop
making them.
them.
Wayne, welcome back. You're a regular. It's good to see you at a time where it's not the middle of the night. Anything exciting with you?
Yeah, it's good to not be here at 2 a.m.
That's what we were hoping for. So what is daytime Wayne shooting?
At the moment, my Contessa 35, little Zeiss that everyone except Mike loves. My little Kiev that I got back. That's not little, no. We weighed it. It's 2 kilos 100 in this state, with the TTL prism finder and the 120 millimeter lens.
At the last Chicago show I was at with Norris, there was a seller there that had an Arax modified Kiev, and I've seen them before, but I've never handled one in person, and it was really nice. I mean, I have a Kiev. Is that an 88 that you have right there?
Yeah, I have an 88.
Yeah, I have an 88 here that works okay, but the Arax had a lot of the upgrades. It switched to, I think, the Pentagon 6 mount. It had a really smooth film transport. It was reskinned, and I don't think you can get them anymore, though. I don't know if they're still doing that.
Vlad, don't you have a blue one?
Yeah, I do, and you can still get them.
You can still? Okay.
They're still open. Yeah, they cost like $1,500, but yeah, you can get them.
But will they get held up in customs?
No, they shouldn't. It depends on the customs officer.
You can use them as a weapon.
Get held up, but you're going to pay through the nose for them.
Yeah, I mean they're available stateside. There's actually quite a few of them.
Vlad, have you had any problems with customs lately?
Oh God, it's an uphill battle. Funny story about that. I'm actually waiting for a package that was lost by U.S. Customs 2 months ago, with about $4,000 worth of gear in it, maybe like 300 rolls of Agfa Avifot 80 film. I don't know if you guys are familiar. It's just crazy, like low grain aerial film that's like encroaches onto IR territory. So it's like very, very contrasty black and white. And so I'm importing actually that from Ukraine. It's custom spooled into cassettes, and I had a box full of it. Plus there was a whole bunch of very rare Soviet stuff. So that just disappeared after U.S. Customs for 2 months. And 2 days ago, all of a sudden, it turns up in California. I lost all hope. So now it's out for delivery, so I may actually get interrupted to go get it. And yesterday, a package in Ukrainian customs got returned back because they sent out a big package of cameras for me. And one of them was the Zenit Photo Sniper that has like a gun handle. And so it was returned. I paid $200 for shipping. That includes tariffs. and it got returned back to my friend who was a sender and was saying like you cannot send military equipment without a permit. What's interesting, when he opened the box, the sniper was unwrapped, but coincidentally, I also had I bought another drone camera from the Russian down drone again, and that thing was untouched. So they didn't even look at that thing. That was military equipment. They just basically complained about the photo sniper. It was like the little gun handle attached to the lens. So now, yeah, he had to take out the handle and take out the drone camera just in case, and resend it for another $200. It's ridiculous. It's the customs guys. I don't know. I don't know how to ship this thing here. Like you never know who you're gonna get. I got Fernando with a. What is that, Fernando? Is that the Norflex?
No, this is a German thing in the junk bin, 10 euros. I'm not sure.
It's a sports shooter attachment for shoulder.
Yeah, Hama used to make them, and Rowie, some of the European manufacturers. It was shoulder mount for a tripod for a telephoto lens.
It looks like an expanding shoulder stock with like a telescoping one, right?
Yes.
Is that have like a remote cable release that attaches to the shutter?
Yes. Hey, Vlad, did you get the film?
I am waiting. I'm waiting for it like any minute now. Actually, it's out for delivery, so
it could be a Camerosity miracle if it shows up. Yeah, you sold me a couple of those Avifot 80 rolls at the last show, and I've shot only one of them so far. And you're right, it is a little bit near IR, I would describe it. So the contrast is up on it. But the thing I loved the most about it is the grain is almost invisible. It is incredibly fine grained film.
It's meant for aerial mapping, so they need to be super detailed for maps, and that's why IR brings out all the little details on top of it.
And the fact that you're selling it fresh too, so we'll just assume you're going to get it. But anyone interested in this film, definitely reach out to Vlad either through the next show. And you're going to Boston, right?
Yeah, I'm going to Boston. Yeah.
And who are you meeting up there?
Actually, Yuri from Fatka.com and I are splitting a couple tables in Boston, so it's gonna be Soviet camera galore. But I only bring a few things because I'm flying. But I might bring that Arax actually if I still have it.
At the Chicago show, you had how many tables?
5.
5 tables. He had one whole corner of the room basically. It was
impressive. One wall of the room.
Yeah. And I don't know if you can call this gas. But after seeing all the 3D printed crap that Vlad had, all these signs and hot shoe covers and keychains and coasters, I went crazy and started making my own. And I was proud. Like I never ripped off your design.
You did a really good job.
But I've come up with a whole bunch of these neat little like Kodak and Kiev and Nikon. I have a really neat Fotlander one that I came up with. So that's addicting. So I have not gear acquisition syndrome. I have print. No, it's not acquisition. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's a lot of fun.
Plastic,
yeah. And I've shared, for those of you on the Camerosity Discord, we have a new library section. Someone had suggested recently, so we've been kind of throwing some random PDF files in there. Someone shared images of them disassembling a Zeiss Contax camera with images of what it looks like on the inside in case someone wants to tackle it themselves. I found a few service manuals, but then I also started sharing some of my 3D files. If you have a Bamboo printer, or anyone, I guess, you probably just have to convert it. But we've been slowly kind of filling up some stuff in there too. So if you're interested, definitely check that out as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely throw some files in there. I got design.
All right. We still have so many people we haven't gotten to here. Josh Calvetti, you want to say hi?
Yeah, I've been listening for a while. Normally the evenings on Monday, I'm tied up with something. I'm in the U.S., but it worked out today.
And where are you at?
I'm over in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay. All right.
So not that far away.
So what do you shoot?
A handful of things. I try not to buy stuff that I'm not going to use because I collect enough other things as is, and I don't want to go too crazy. But been having a lot of fun with Hasselblad. I picked that up last fall. Latest thing for me, I finally got around to picking up one of the little 40 millimeter non-Summicron, but like the rocker version. Finally found one on eBay that wasn't shipping from Japan for all the crazy prices with the tariffs and everything. And I have to say, I've really been using that just digitally on my Fujifilm, but it is the perfect size. I've used a lot of 50 millimeter, which when you put on APS-C, you get 75, obviously. So widening just a little bit to 60 effectively is pretty nice. It's a lot closer to what I want to see in my mind's eye, just on the edges. And it's tiny. So that's kind of been the most fun pickup for me lately.
So that's the Rokkor 40F2 from the CL and CLE, right?
Yeah, I think I have the earlier CL version. I know that like there's people will say that the CLE one had better coatings. I have no reason that like to doubt that, but it also seems like there's not a whole lot of good evidence either way. It's just kind of like they're all pretty similar.
I have the earlier one too, and it's great. I mean, could you in a lab recreate a very specific scenario where the later one is better? Yeah, I'm sure you can, but for practical use, there's no FOMO for you to have to upgrade to the newer version.
Yeah, and it's so hard when there aren't many of them, at least in the US, and nobody seems to sell them with any kind of specificity around which version. It's just like, oh yeah, this is that lens. And sometimes there's I don't remember if the one that was labeled QF is older than the one that's not. Like it seems like there's two different variants even of the single coated version. But I really have no problem with that. I primarily shoot old lenses. I think most of the ones I have are single coated. I have one of the 50 millimeter Summicron dual range, which seems to be the cheapest model of that. But that's also great on digital because you can get a pretty decent. It's obviously not a macro, but you can get pretty good close up. And with an adapter on an APS-C camera, you don't have to worry about that back element slamming into your sensor or anything like you do on some of the. I don't know if it's the M8 or the MS7. I know they had some problems with like, oh, this lens isn't compatible with that because it physically comes back too far. Or even I think the CL and CLE, it would hit the little meter stick.
Well, can you focus the dual lens without the goggles?
You can, yeah. The top is like this little.
There's a button.
Probably brass as well, but this little BB type thing. If you just push that in with your finger and extend the lens as if you had it, it'll work just fine.
Right, because it's a clever design if you've never seen one before. I have one and I do have the goggles, but the way that lens works is that it functions like a normal rangefinder lens where it stops around, I don't know, 3 feet, 3.5 feet. I can't remember exactly where, but there's a physical like spot where it just won't go any further. And in order to focus closer, you have to pull the lens out a little bit and then go past the stop, and then you can focus down. But it won't let you do it unless you mount the goggles. And when you mount the goggles, there's that little BB he was talking about. It slides over it and pushes it down, allowing you to move to the shorter range. That's why they call it dual range. But then when you take the goggles off, you're back to 3 feet to infinity again. And it's a clever design that they were able to do that, allowing you actual rangefinder. I mean, there's severe parallax, but rangefinder focusing down to 15 inches. I want to say 18 maybe, but it's really
it's something in that neighborhood.
The other option to that, Mike, is the 50 millimeter f2 Nikkor in Leica thread mount, because it also has closer focusing. There's actually a detent that you'll feel. So for you run into parallax issues if you're using it on a film camera, but on a mirrorless camera, it does let you focus closer.
Well, no, you won't. Well, you'll have parallax, but the rangefinder decouples when you go beyond that detent, right?
Yeah, so it tells you to measure rather than look.
Another lens, and this is getting into the rarities again, but another lens that does that same thing is for the Kodak Ektra. The 50 millimeter f1.9 lens does the exact same thing. And you can not only feel when the rangefinder decouples, but on the focus scale, the numbers are a different color to kind of help remind you that, you can focus closer than 3 feet, but you can't use the rangefinder anymore. It's a neat feature that I think a lot of people miss, especially, and I don't want to say the Nikkor the Nikkor 50 f2 is a common lens, but it's certainly not rare. I mean, it's not hard to find those.
It's a $150 lens.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want it, you can get it right now.
Sure.
And for it to have that feature, it's really neat because you'd expect to hear about that on some obscure lights lens, but for something fairly pedestrian, it's a really neat feature to have.
And the thing with the dual range Summicron that's kind of neat too, because I mean, if you're good with shooting it digitally on non-Leica bodies, it is a super cheap Summicron compared to all the other models because nobody wants it for the fact that it doesn't work with the M8. I think I spent maybe 350 or 400 on mine. And even if you go for the equivalent, the rigid version, which admittedly is a lot lighter, that dual range one weighs a ton because it's just solid brass.
They also had very soft coatings, so it's hard to find a lot of cleaning marks, not necessarily scratches, but cleaning marks.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to buy one that looked pretty good. If I were to put it on a full frame, maybe I'd notice something at the edges.
No, all you would notice a lower contrast. You really wouldn't probably notice anything as far as degradation of the optic. It would just be a little lower contrast image. But they're a very good lens.
Joey Alvillar. Joey Alvillar. Sorry if I'm ruining your name, but do you want to say hi?
Yeah, my name is Joey from Arizona, Southeast Arizona.
Welcome.
I think Joey and I are regular emailers, I think.
Okay, all right. Another Paul acquisition. Okay.
Yeah, I finally made it on here. So good to put some faces to some names. Picked up this.
Oh, another Hasselblad. Is that an SWC?
Yeah, got it from Igor, Paul.
Cool. He probably got it from me.
It seems that you two just go round and round.
Well, then that one probably was. I had it at one time. Would that be the one I gave you, Paul?
It very well could be.
Probably should have.
Is it the one I gave you, Mike?
This one has the initials PC kind of carved all over it.
Pat Casey. Maybe it was Pat Casey's.
Hasselblad's always been too rich. I was a Veronica kind of guy, so I'm innocent.
But what I've found, and I looked online about trying to get a wide lens on medium format, and you really, for what I picked this up at, I couldn't touch anything else.
Let's go. Let's open it up. I mean, we've I don't want to call out too many people here, but we still have a lot of people. Let's hear, what are your recent acquisitions, or does anybody have?
I got a package from MAMP, Leon. I got the Lordomat SE, which I can't find a lot of information on the internet, so I don't think a lot of people have it on their radar. But I think it's one of the best Lordomat models. It's got 50 millimeter frame lens, and it's got a really bright viewfinder. But these Lordomats, they're weird. You pull it back towards you. It's just weird.
Double advance, but forward.
Made in Wetzlar.
I've reviewed the original Lordomat, and then I did the C35, the one with the exposure meter on it. I haven't done the SE though. So yeah, they're in Wetzlar. The story goes it was ex-Lights employees. If I remember correctly, there was some owner of the shop's daughter's boyfriend or husband or something that worked for Wetzlar, and he enticed him to come over and work for the family business. So there's certainly, I wouldn't go as far as to suggest that they have like a DNA in it, but they're made in the same town and they're pretty good quality. The one strange thing about those cameras is at the top of all Lordomats, there's a little cover that goes from the top of the lens into the body, and it has their logo on it. Under that cover is the rangefinder coupling. That cover is covering the rangefinder coupling, and it gets off fairly easily. So a lot of times those cameras are found with bad vertical alignment issues. How is yours?
MAMP took it apart before he sent it to me and cleaned everything.
He did. Okay.
Yeah.
MAMP doesn't have audio. So I'm sure he had to do something to get that working, because everyone that I've had, and it's a fairly easy fix if you're comfortable enough to go in there, but it seems to be a weak point of those cameras. But beyond that, though, they're really nice.
I haven't shot it yet, but I'm going to put at least one roll through it.
So MAMP said he prefers the original Lordomat for the smaller top plate, but that SE has a superb finder and otherwise does all the same things. Yeah, he says below that small cover is where you adjust the rangefinder. That's what I was saying too. So very nice, very nice. We got Brian MacDomhnail. Welcome back. It's been a while.
Hey, how you doing? Finally, you're in a hospitable time zone. That's good.
Well, you're here just in time. We kind of went around the room. We have John Wade here from the UK. We've got our first ever Norway caller. We've got all over Europe, a couple Americans who can't otherwise get in our usual time. But you're a kind of a regular, a 2 a.m. regular like Wayne is. But anything new from you, or for you, I should say?
I think overall I've rounded out my camera collecting, and I'm kind of starting to think more about the user experience of the cameras I have, and dangerously considering reducing it further and maybe picking up one or two cameras that I might prefer using. It's been difficult because like today I was using my Fujica Super 6, and although it took me a lot of research to arrive at that as the folding medium format camera I wanted, I didn't enjoy using it today, to be honest. And I was just like, I'm definitely leaning towards SLRs as my, if I'm being honest with myself, regardless of how well things are designed or how beautiful they are or how good the lens is or how good the results are. Really, I think I'm getting to the stage now where I'm just being honest with myself that I don't enjoy using that camera. And I think the Yashica D, which you helped me identify as my preferred TLR, I definitely prefer using that more than the Fujica Super 6. And if there was an SLR, a medium format SLR that was smaller or lighter than the Pentax 6.7, I'd be all over it. I think I like seeing what I'm framing. I think that's where I'm at. So really, my preferred experience is using one of my 35mm SLRs like the Pentax MX or something like that.
Brian, Map just asked if you had come across an LX yet.
No. I think everything I've heard about them in terms of the problems and stuff, I'm happy with the MX. It's all good. I think if I had to choose one of the 35mm SLRs that I have, sentiment aside, history aside, however I got the camera or whatever, I think the MX is the one. I think that's
Anthony. Anthony loves the MX as well.
It's just the most comfortable I am with a camera. I think it's that and a small lens like the 40mm Pancake. I'm like a pig in shit. That's it.
That black paint, the black paint MX is one of the really, really beautiful little camera.
Yep.
I am 100% in favor of the MX with the 40. It's like one of the best combos for travel that I've ever shot.
Yeah. I think the MX competes in my collection for usability with the insert any Canon EOS with the 40mm Pancake or any of point and shoots with a kind of a 38 or a 40mm lens. The results are all the same. It's just whether you want it to be autofocus or you want to have manual control or any of those things. But the MX, I think if I had to choose one of the ones that are competing, it would definitely be the one because it's got that nice mix of manual and kind of effective metering.
Well, certainly no camera is impervious to failure, but the MXs have a pretty good track record of holding up well.
Absolutely.
They aren't, I can't think of a single weak point. Maybe the prisms, sometimes those, I know the MX isn't the K series, but it's from that similar time period. And sometimes they can suffer from the foam degrading into a primordial goo, destroying the prism. But honestly, beyond that, as long as it's been taken well care of, there's a very high probability you pick up an MX and it's going to work fine.
It's actually really hard to pick one up right now. They're really popular and expensive.
Well, that's because of Anthony. That's his fault.
What about the ME Super? Why do people don't like those so much?
I love mine. Yeah, I love mine. I have one of those as well. That was gifted to me. That was what started me on the Pentax K. And it was gifted to me. It was in really bad shape. I fixed it up. I spent more on it now in repairs than you could pay for it. But it was my friend's mother's camera, and I kind of took it on as like a foster camera, and I fixed it up. I think it's a great camera. I really like it.
Probably great when they work well. I think it's the electronics that helps kind of fail.
Yeah, I think that for me, I've had 4 ME Supers and not a single one that didn't have electronics issues, as opposed to the MX, which have been bulletproof.
And then some people just don't like buttons. The ME Super is up-down buttons instead of knobs, which...
Mike, do you remember the ME Super? The button... This is going to sound stupid. Do the batteries go in upside down?
I'm not sure.
They do, don't they? It goes in positive inside the body.
Opposite of what most people do. That's possible. I've seen that before.
It's pretty rare, though. I mean, it's one of those things that you really get screwed up if you just go to change batteries and you put it in upside down. I think it's one of the few that it really goes with the negative or the positive goes inside the terminal.
Actually, all the other Pentaxes are the other way around.
Right. They're all even the MX are positive out.
Nikon FM has the same. Has a little holder that actually I think it's also upside down. It tells you to put it upside down into that little tube that comes attached to the cab.
Brian, I have a question.
Yep.
Are you the Brian MacDomhnail from I Dream of Camera?
I am indeed. I am the famous Irish pretend Scottish Brian MacDomhnail from
I love so much, and they are having finally 100 chapter. Huh?
Yeah, but unlike you guys, they made a big deal of it, So you guys were so cool with your fame that you kind of passed it by with very little fanfare.
They need to try harder to try and get attention. So what can I say?
They declared war on us, and we fired back one time, and they gave up. So I will no longer take the bait.
But, I don't know if you heard their most recent thing on Facebook, but they have Debbie Gibson, whoever Debbie Gibson is, singing their theme song while Jeff and Gabe look on admiringly and miss it. Let's put it this way: miss it if you can.
Well, congrats on their 100th episode, I guess.
Yeah, congratulations. Right. It's a fun show.
It is. No, we like Jeff and Gabe. They're going down, I think, an episode a quarter though now. So they've moved into a maybe a semi-retirement phase. I don't know. But real quick, back to batteries, not necessarily upside down, but I shot a camera very recently that has kind of a weird battery compartment. This is called an Agfa Selectronic S, which I think is loosely based off of like the Optima, the 1535, like that era. And the battery compartment is this little plastic tray that just slides out from the side, but it's also curved. So you have this little tray, it's hard to see, but you put two little batteries in it, and then you slide it in like a pizza oven. You're like sliding it in, and it goes right into the side directly below the huge reddish orange shutter release. And while it's not hard to do, I've just never seen a camera like this before, where you pull out a little tray and the batteries just sit on it, and then you slide it back in for power. So I thought of that as kind of an oddball battery location.
I remember one Minolta has that kind of tray for 6 batteries.
Oh, for 6 of them.
Yes, it goes deep down. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that would be a pain in the butt.
I learned a hard lesson yesterday. I was putting in batteries into Kiev 19. It was also 2 LR44s. And apparently, if you over tighten the little round cover, the whole battery compartment just starts rotating with it. And once it does, you cannot ever open it again.
So I have a news. Camerosity in Spanish is doing very well with the episode 3. I finally got this monster from United States. In Germany, it's not easy to find.
A Kodak medalist.
The one. I really like the one because you can really trim it, the focus very, very carefully.
Yeah, the medalist one has a fine focus wheel. On the 2, they replaced that with the flash sync port. It also, yours has the black anodized focus, the helicoid, which most of them do, but if you get a very early one, they are not anodized. It's a great camera. I mean, they do suffer from film transport issues, but I don't think the camera is quite as fragile as some people state, because most of the time they can be fixed. They do still work. And I will, if you give me a minute, I don't remember the guy's name, but so many years ago, there was a guy named Ken Ruth at Bald Mountain Camera who would adapt those to use 120, and he retired long ago. But I recently found a new guy in the United States. His name is Dan Daniel. Dan Daniel Cameras in Morrisonville, New York, who will also do the 120 conversions too. So I personally don't think it needs it. I have no issue re-spooling 620 to use on those cameras, but I do see how some people would find that appealing. But if you're interested in a medalist, they are easier to find in the US. And if you are in the US and would like to get your camera repaired and or modified, I would maybe reach out to this guy. And I've heard good things. I haven't personally used them though myself.
Doesn't he does sort of a quasi on the medalist, adjust the film, take the film, so you can put a roll of 120 in, but you still need 620 spool. So that's sort of a halfway. And apparently that's a lot less complicated just to enlarge the one compartment.
The supply side?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he does because I personally haven't had mine done. I have a 1 and a 2 that are both original, but yeah, there are a lot of the brownies, the 620s, you can use a 120 spool for the supply end, but the take up still needs to be 620. And that would kind of make sense because the supply side is just a compartment.
Right.
It's the take up side that needs because it's not, a lot of people just say that 120 and 620 the diameter is different, which it is, but the key is different too. The thing that goes in and spins it on 620 cameras, it's much smaller. And if you just try to put a 120 spool in there, even if it fits, there's a high probability that it will never spin the spool because that key will rotate loosely inside the shaft, for lack of a better word. So, when we talk about adapting 120 to 620 or vice versa, I should say, you got to not only account for the size, but you also have to account for the key being different as well.
And of course, the Medalist has some of the tightest tolerances inside.
Very tight, yeah. You cannot force it. Like people would say, get a pair of nail clippers sometimes, and it does not work on the Medalist or the Chevron.
If Kodak wants to really stick with the fiction of smaller, they could make the camera small. Of course, the Medalist is huge.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, that's why I said earlier, it was also a financial reason is why they did it. They weren't really, maybe some of the early folders might have been slightly smaller, but I don't necessarily think they used that to their advantage much.
So the results were great, and the focusing. I like the system they use for focusing for rangefinder.
What's interesting about the Medalist, if you've never seen one before in person, is it is not a combined image. So the viewfinder and the rangefinder are two separate windows. However, the rangefinder is below the main viewfinder. And if you just hold your eye just the right way, you can actually see both at the same time. You're not going to see it on the zoom, but you look through the eyepiece, and if you look straight ahead, you're looking through the viewfinder. But if you tilt your eye downward just a little bit,
chime in. But I know there's one question I've always wanted to ask, listening to all the episodes, and I know this is a camera-centric, podcast, and you guys have gotten me in trouble, but I am a photographer. I like to think I am amateur, whatever, but all these old cameras, the Medalist, are there any photographers from the 40s, 50s, 60s that used these cameras and created workbooks? And you always hear about the the Barnacks, the Rolleiflexes, the Hasselblads, the 4x5s, 8x10, Deerdorfs, but these folders, I have a Bessa 2, I have a Zeiss Icon, the 6x9s. I'm very interested in photographers that made work with some of these old cameras, because earlier you guys were talking about lenses, and I have a TT Artisan 35mm 1.4 on my Sony stuff, and it's a $125 lens, and I put a flash on it, put it at f11, f16, and you can't even, you have to pixel peep to really look at the difference between a $2,000 lens and a $125 lens. And of course there's more to it, but I'm interested in people that have made work with some of these old cameras, and it's very hard.
Definitely Edward Steichen shot with the Medalist. There are photos of him doing World War II photography in the Pacific using a Medalist. And Kappa shot with a Contax 2. Photographer in Paris before World War II, Brassai shot with a Voigtlander Bergheil with the Heliar lens. These higher end cameras, they got plenty of use. But the truth is, if you go to a photography museum, they rarely identify what the camera is that's used. So there are some photographers like Cartier-Bresson who you see the photos of them standing around with their Leicas. But a lot of these other cameras were just workhorses, and they did get a lot of use, but they just didn't publicize what they were shooting with.
It just makes me wonder, because your guys' backgrounds, like Mike and Theo and everybody, there's Vlad, there's these you guys have hundreds of cameras, and somebody grabbed one and just, this is what I'm going to use, and this is what I'm going to use for a part of my life to make work. And that, I'm not a collector. I like to use my cameras. I have two 35mm cameras, and everything else is 6x6, 6x9, 6x7. But it's hard for me to. I look at the cameras, I want to dabble in them. I go on Paul's eBay store, Igor's eBay store, and I look at them, and I'm not going to use it. I'm infatuated by the history of these things. I try to explain to my wife, and she just looks at me like I'm a complete idiot.
That's a pretty common reaction.
Yeah, we've all been there.
But and I'm not like this. The Hasselblad SWC, like I've heard you guys talk about it, and I think I might have cut off there in the beginning, but for what I paid for the camera, you cannot get into a wide lens, medium format system for what I paid for that camera. And it's just, I looked at Theo's Mamiya 7, like it's like God, like it's like the prices are crazy these days. And like I used to have a 6.7, and with the 55 lens, the thing is, like everybody says, it's monstrous. But like I'm using my cameras, to make work, and it just made it always, Lee Friedlander, I believe, made a book and used the SWC. Yeah, I'm just real interested in work from other photographers. And
well, the British photographer Penny Smith, who documented the sort of punk scene in London in the 1970s, she was shooting with a Pentax ES2, and then of course you've got all the photos of Andy Warhol, famously with his Polaroid Big Shot that he used as the basis for his silk screens. But he was also shooting a Minox 35, and he was shooting with an XA, an Olympus XA, and I believe he also shot with a Rolly 35. So he liked small, compact, slip it in your pocket kind of cameras as well. But the Big Shot is just completely associated with Andy Warhol.
Especially later in his life, Ansel Adams shot with Hasselblad, but I don't know if he liked the wide angles. I think he liked the regular and longer lenses, just from the images I've seen, like his Half Dome Moon. That was a longer lens on a Hasselblad.
Well, one of the most famous pictures of like the late 20th century was Afghan Girl, which was shot with an FM2. So, I mean, it's a Nikon, but it wasn't an F3 or an F2 or whatever. To FM2N. And during World War II, there was a guy by the name of Tony Vaccaro who shot professionally using an Argus C3.
One of the most celebrated photographers out of Japan is Daiyo Moriyama, and he's very famous. His books are like super expensive if you want to get a good book of his. But one of the things I saw in a documentary was he actually uses a compact camera for his photography, because he says, I just want the camera to get out of the way. I just wanted to capture a vision and capture an image. And he just uses a compact camera, which, and if you look at all his books, half of them are called snapshots, or he calls his photography snapshots. He calls it snapshot photography. But he's like one of the most celebrated Japanese photographers you'll come across. So it is something to consider, that it's not necessarily always the camera. Yeah, we like to collect them, but it's what the right tool for the right purpose.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to say too, is the same rule applies today as it did back then. The best camera is whatever you have with you. So whether it's a compact point and shoot or an Argus C3 or a Rolleiflex or a Hasselblad, you're gonna make great images, assuming you know how to use a camera. And I think for a lot of people, it's whatever was an extension of them. The reason a professional photographer isn't going to have a wall of cameras like this is because you can't possibly familiarize yourself with so many different models. You want something that is an extension of your hand or your eye, and is predictable and is going to get you the exact results that you want time and time again. So that's like when you see guys like me, I'm not a photographer. I remember in a couple episodes, Anthony, you pointed out that I don't get as excited about the art of photography as I do the gear. I love the gear. I love the history. I love the way these things feel and sound and just everything about the actual cameras themselves. I like photography. I'm not against it, but that doesn't excite me as much as the gear does. And there's many people who are the exact opposite of me. They don't really care what they're shooting. So, it's a personal choice. We all have different things that appeal to us, and there's really no wrong answer to that.
There's a photography writer, and he wrote for a number of photo magazines, edited some, has gone on to be a blogger. His name's Mike Johnston, and he's kind of famous or infamous for being the one who added the H to the end of the word bokeh to try and get an English-speaking audiences to pronounce it correctly. And he tells a story that I might mangle a little bit, but it's that on the same day he received 2 portfolios of photographs. And one of them was from someone who was not very happy with the results and said, "Can you tell these were taken with a Leica lens?" And his thought was, "No, but I can tell they weren't focused correctly." And the other portfolio absolutely blew him away, some of the best photographs he'd ever seen. And so he contacted the photographer and asked them, "What camera do you use?" And that photographer's response was, "I think it's a Pentax, but I don't know what number it is." So to have amazing photographs from someone who wasn't even aware of what camera they were using tells you how much gear can matter sometimes.
You know, the grand old man of camera collecting, Jason Schneider, if you remember him, and he's still out there and he's still blogging. I remember one of his early articles for Modern Photography. He talked about how he would shoot professionally with a Kodak, a folding Brownie, maybe not a Brownie, but certainly a folding Kodak. So there again, you know, the equipment is less important than the skill behind it.
Interesting. Back in the 40s, one of the great photographers in the U.S. was a guy named Arnold Rothstein. He shot for the Farm Services Administration as well as for Look magazine, and a lot of his stuff is still printed in the FSA books that are out there. He shot with a 4x5 speed graphic and a Kodak Ektra. In fact, there's a great picture. His son is a guy named Rob Stoner, who is a very well-known musician. He's played with everybody, a lot of blues players, and played with Dylan on a lot of Dylan's tours. But anyway, there's a picture of Arnold Rothstein in his suit and his fedora and a trench coat with a 4x5 speed graphic in one hand and a Kodak Ektra around his neck. It's just a wonderful picture. But that was in 1941, when it was getting more and more difficult, if not impossible, to get Leicas. And they were using what they had available, and in that case, it was the Kodak.
Have any of you heard of the photographer Joe Clark, Hillbilly Snap Shooter? He did a successful campaign for Jack Daniels for Life magazine, and there's at least a dozen cameras, multiple Leica copies, multiple field cameras, multiple cameras that he had handmade. So, I mean, you can have gas and be successful.
I'm not a professional photographer, but this is like why I brought the Inax 5, because eventually when I go out shooting pictures, whenever I have a trip with my girlfriend and I want to have memories of like wherever we go, because it's just so beautiful around. It makes it so easy to switch between digital and film. And I love the medium, but also at the same time, I don't want to risk that I won't be able to retrieve these memories of what we've done in the case that film gets exposed to light accidentally or something else happens during development. So I just choose practicality. And this is like why it's so fun to have this cheapo camera, but which can share lenses with my digital camera and autofocus and stuff and be quite efficient at what it does. But also this, opportunism brought me to something else, because I wanted really to try medium format, but I could never really find a camera that would fit my price requirement, except for some folders, which I just tried to have fun with. But then I found one laying in a laboratory of my university that I do project for, and it's like it just fell out of heaven for me. It's a Mamiya RB67, which has some trouble with light seals because it's been laying there for more than 20 years, left after professor working for that lab that unfortunately passed away. But ever since it's been left in that laboratory, that camera has been just collecting dust on one of the shelves. And I was thinking, oh, that would be really fun to actually try that out. And so I bought some light seals for replacement, but I have a question if there's anything else that I should look out for when it comes to issues with like this specific model that has been standing somewhere unused for a very long time.
I don't think of anything specific for that model.
It is also about 2 kilos, just like the Kiev that's been shown before.
I mean, aside from light seals, if you have a metered prism, obviously the battery compartment too.
Oh yeah, that I need to check yet.
If it hasn't been used for quite a while, it might need a bit of exercising. That's usually gets them going again. They're a very robust camera. They were made for studios. They were made to be handled fairly roughly because they were used by photographers professionally. So it should be okay. If it's not, a service usually will fix it up. They've got the shutter in the lenses. So sometimes, when that goes, you may need to either have the lens serviced or replace a lens. But look, I mean, you should be able to use it straight out of the box once you get the seals replaced. Which model is it? Is it the standard one or the S, the Pro S?
It's the Pro S. Yeah. It seems to me that the shutter in the lens works.
Yeah, try and get Pro S backs because don't need seals. They use the grooves when you get to that model. So if you're buying any new backs for it, try and source those because then it saves you having to deal with seals completely as well.
Yeah, seals are something that plague any camera. Paul had gotten a kit of like unused, new old stock Hasselblad 500 backs, like never before used. And they all had rotted seals. Like even though the thing was brand new and never been used before, they immediately needed new seals because they've just sat there for decades and decades. And especially if it's been used, or I'm sorry, especially if it's from the era of foam seals. Foam is a petroleum-based product and it has a tendency to, I always call it primordial goo. It reverts back to a sticky, nasty nut. But even the felt seals are sometimes held on by adhesive and the adhesive can fail. And the last thing you want to do is be shooting a camera and having bits and pieces of the light seal getting further into the camera, causing even more damage. So, even if you don't care about light leaks, you really do want to replace those on pretty much everything.
So is it also recommended to just blow it a little bit with the compressed air?
It depends. If you can see the mirror, yes. I wouldn't go too crazy with that because sometimes when you move stuff around, you move it into where it'll actually jam something.
If you have crumbling light seals, you don't want to be blowing it around in there. You want to make sure you've fixed the problem first. And then, if you have some dust on the reflex mirror or the ground glass, sure. But I would be careful with that.
Yeah, the best thing actually is a small vacuum. They used to make small vacuum cleaners to clean keyboards and things like that, and that's okay, but you really don't want to be blowing stuff into the camera. If you take off on an RB67, if you take off the focusing screen and then take the lens off, you can blow down through and supposedly out, but still it's risky to do that. I would not suggest,
especially when you just got it, when you haven't gone through it yet. Once you go through it and everything has been cleaned up and ready to go, if you just need to get some dust off the mirror, it's probably less of a problem. But for something you just picked up and haven't shot yet, don't start blowing compressed air in there.
No, and especially if the propellant comes out, because that's a real mess to try to clean off a front surface mirror. On RB67 lenses also, there are some settings on the lenses on some of the versions. You want to make sure that is set in the proper position because sometimes those are set for a cable release, and I can't really see which one you have. But if it isn't working right, check those levers and see where they're set for. Make sure they're set for the right position.
And just remember, some lenses also have floating elements, so it depends which one you have, which can throw your focus off a little bit as well.
The focus is actually on the body, so
yeah. It's quite handy.
Like Theo says, if you have the floating element, that has to be focused both places. So if you're having focusing issues, the first thing I would look at would be the position of the focusing screen. Make sure it's seated properly. As if it isn't, it's not going to be. It isn't going to be right.
I just wanted to add how wonderful this camera smells. It smells like sewing machine oil. I know because my mother was a professional seamstress.
I don't know if that's good or not, though.
I was going to say, I don't think mine smells like anything, so that one's thrown me a little bit.
My wife always knows when I get an old camera because she can smell it. She can smell the old leather case, or she can smell the old grease, and she can sniff it out.
I have the opposite problem. Mine smells of a smoker.
Yeah, that's always terrible.
I just got a Retina 2A, and it's just been I've cleaned it with vinegar with a little bit of alcohol with just soapy water. I've redone the leatherette with leather wax, but still it's...
The only thing that's really good, it's so when you get a smoky, stinky camera like that, the first thing I always do is wipe it down. You could use a variety of products. Honestly, baby wipes work really well too. Maybe vinegar, I've never tried that. But apart from giving a camera a good wipe down to get all the surface crap off of it, the only thing that's really going to get rid of that smell is time. Just keep it in a well-ventilated area for months. It'll eventually go away, but it'll take a while.
The dishwasher will actually fix it too, but just right in the
dishwasher.
Yeah, but that depends if you want to use the camera afterwards.
Would putting it out in the sun harm anything?
I wouldn't do that.
Especially here in Australia.
Yeah, the problem with putting things in the sun, people will use this and say that's how you get rid of yellowing in lenses. The sun heats things up. It's going to cause your camera to get hot, and the lubricants that are in there are going to start moving to places where they shouldn't be. And if it gets too hot, you can actually start having issues with, things flexing, and it's a bad idea to leave your camera in the sun. I mean, it fits on the front seat of your car while you're driving down the road and it's in direct sunlight for a couple hours, fine. But I wouldn't intentionally leave a camera in the sun for any reason.
Just to change sort of tracks for a moment, Norris was holding up what I think was a radio camera before. So I'm interested in hearing about that one.
So it's got see if I can open it. It's got a bakelite camera inside.
Okay.
That you can load film. And then it's got, I don't know if you can see the gears inside for a radio. And it's a functional radio on the back, which got knobs you can tune.
Oh, wow.
Is that Chinese or Soviet or what?
No, it's American.
It's called the Tom Thumb.
Tom Thumb. If you can see
it's definitely bigger than your thumb, though.
So what's the purpose of that?
When you go to the beach, let's say. Maybe you want to take some photos and listen to the radio at the same time.
Oh, okay. I guess so.
You have the Koa Ramera, which was the same idea. This was a radio camera as well, too. Much smaller than the Tom Thumb, though. But this one also uses 16 millimeter film.
You know what Ramera means in Spanish?
Isn't Ramera like prostitute or something?
Exactly.
So, interesting enough, it kind of operates like a TLR. So the viewfinder is at the very top that you can see. I don't know if you can see the images through. And actually, yeah, it is a TR. There's the viewing lens and there's the taking lens right there. But it's a very simple.
What format is it?
127?
127, I think.
127.
Had a camera back in the 60s that was a combination binoculars and radio.
Yes, Tasco. Yep.
They were made to go to the racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
So, you could follow your horse along the track in with your binoculars and listen to the race call on the radio.
Fernando, you mentioned another meaning for the word Ramera in Spanish. But if we had time, I was going to bring it up, but I feel like this is a good segue. But my recent gas is this German camera. It's called the Wenka, the Wenka, which I believe is slang for a form of self-gratification. So this is a neat German, it's made in Nuremberg. It's got a 40 millimeter interchangeable lens. I think only 2 lenses are ever made for it.
Is it brown or no?
No, it's not brown. I mean, it's a black normal camera.
No. There is brown cameras in Nuremberg, but this is not brown.
Oh, no, brown. No. It's made by Wenka. Wenk, Gebrwenk, Nuremberg, and the name of the camera is Wenka. And it has a horizontally traveling shutter, but it's not at the focal plane. So it has curtains like a Leica does, but they are immediately behind the lens mount. So when you look at it from within the film compartment, the shutter is not at the focal plane, but it is a combined image, coupled rangefinder, film advance lever. The shutter speed dial is on top, and it's got interchangeable 40 millimeter mount, so you can't put Leica lenses on it. But this was my recent pickup, and I actually got this from Norway. So not from Kamil, but this came to me via Norway. So Germany to Norway to the United States. And I thought it was kind of funny because it's another one of those unfortunately named cameras. It's a Wenka.
For listeners who can't see, Mike Ekman's been wankering around on the
yes, I've been wanking
on screen,
right mm-hmm.
to all of us.
Yeah, this is definitely that's why Paul had the naked camera that kept getting blurred out.
So here's a little bit of trivia. Oscar movies. One of the it didn't win, but one of the nominated movies was called Blue Moon. It takes place in 1943, and there's a little cameo in there by Ouija the Famous. So if you haven't seen Blue Moon, watch that and watch for Ouija.
He coined the F8 and B there.
Yeah, and he was there in the movie, so I guess it worked.
All right, we got to wind this down, unfortunately. We have so many people here. I feel like there's a lot of stories that we missed, but I'm really pleased with the turnout. We had several first-time callers. I like getting the variety of people from different areas of the world coming to join us, too. I like hearing stories about how we inspire you to spend your own money. I like Kamil's story about, picking up the Olympus Epic when he was in 2006 and felt like he was behind because he didn't have a digital camera, but now he's ahead of the game and everybody wants that camera. So before we go, does anybody have any last minute questions or emergency gas?
Does Anthony or Paul know if my Sunpack 3600, if it will blow out my electronics in my Fuji?
I don't know, but I would probably not do it. That's way too new of a camera. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I'd been.
No, you're safe, Joey. It's
is it?
The trigger capacity on that is not. You don't want to use those on some digital cameras.
So don't.
But
so
on
you
any
said it wasn't safe?
on any film camera, it should be perfectly safe.
But Paul, that's the Cosina early 2000s, the folding Fuji.
Yeah, but it's a film camera.
It is.
Yeah, but
no, it's just a leaf shutter.
It'll be okay.
Should,
okay.
Yeah.
But what about the light meter?
No, it won't hurt the light meter at all.
No.
The only thing that can blow those up are the higher trigger capacitors on like the Norman 2000 watt second power packs. But but if you're worried about it, you can get a Wien Safe Sync and just stick that on the hot shoe and use that if your camera has a hot shoe. But no, it won't. Those are very low trigger capacitors, so it shouldn't hurt it at all.
Yep. If Paul says it's fine, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, digital cameras a different story, but film cameras, none of them should have that problem.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Did we ever hear from Stuart?
Southern England. I'm sort of halfway between London and the south coast, not terribly far from John Wade, I guess. I was just going to say thanks for putting the show on, Mike. Really, I'm a sort of long time lurker, first time caller. I think I've probably listened to every single episode now, quite often in the car as a podcast. I've been shooting film for 40 years or something now, probably. Pretty exclusively black and white these days. Have a dark room up in the loft here, freezing in winter and boiling in summer. So tend to only to develop film in the sort of autumn and the spring, really. Although I have been known to, be up there in my underpants because it's so warm. I've been doing a bit of repair lately. Kind of learnt to do things through the Learn Camera Repair Facebook group, which is really, really helpful. A lot of very knowledgeable people and professional camera technicians who will help you with your repairs. Just simple SLRs, really, Spotmatic, the SRT series, those kind of things. But it's a kind of another string to your sort of photography experience, I suppose. Really, the only thing I did think perhaps I might have something to show you. And what would I have to show you? I was asked that question, and I've got this, which is a Rollei VB or 5B. I'm never quite sure whether it's supposed to be VB or 5B.
The Rollei cord.
Is that the grey skin?
In the grey skin.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Which came from the Philips oscilloscope kit. And Philips made a kit to photograph the waveforms of an oscilloscope. There was a lot of other stuff that came with it, I believe, but I've only got the camera, fortunately, which is, I guess, the important bit. And a few other goodies that I know, Theo, you'll like these. I don't know if you can see those.
Got some nice Icoflexes.
Icoflexes.
Flex 2.
They all work.
Oh, nice.
And I don't have any of those. Interlock problems. It's a bit of a sort of I think it's a historical problem with them, but I think it's really mostly just the fact that they're different to the way most others work, and people aren't used to them. So once you got the hang of it, they're so a really nice camera, a really good, solid, well-made camera.
They are, and I'm really impressed with what you get out of them. the lenses are top notch, but it's also they're a very affordable version of a TLR as well.
Yeah. I picked up particularly the early ones. I think there's the 2/3, which is the sort of late 30s version, for about, I don't know, 30 or 40 pounds or something. And because they're relatively simple, I've been able to service them myself, and you get a really good user camera. I just really like TLRs, I suppose.
Yeah, that Rolleicord was the last Rolleicord I think made 5B, and then you can interchange the viewfinder. It's very easy to slide out to clean the mirror.
Yeah. You can drop it out; it just slides on.
And you can move up the focusing screen also.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can pop that up. You can get access to the mirror.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's super convenient for cleaning too.
There's a cracking lens actually on that.
Yeah,
that's the Schneider
Xenar.
Yeah, really nice lens.
Yeah, really the only downside that I've found to the Rolleicords is usually they have a darker viewfinder than the other ones do. But once you replace, make sure the mirror's clean and good, and then you have maybe a more up-to-date viewing screen, they're just as good as anything else. And if anything, because they're simpler in design than some of the Rolleiflexes are, in my opinion, they're more likely to keep working properly than some of the Rolleiflexes that are just very highly engineered.
Yeah, I mean the Icoflexes have a really nice bright screen generally.
Yeah,
brighter than the Rolleiflex slightly.
Well, Brian MacDomhnail was talking about how he took my recommendation for the Yashica D, which is a later TLR, and that one has an extremely bright viewfinder as well. So for anybody wanting to get into 6x6 TLRs, and maybe some of the Zeiss ones or Rolleiflexes are a little bit pricier, the Yashica Ds can sometimes be found for a little bit cheaper, and they're really nice. So maybe you'll expand to Yashica TLRs when your shelves get full.
Yeah, I find the viewing screen is perfect. Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's good to meet you. Connect a face to the name. Seeing you on here, you got some nice TLRs. If you haven't seen them, the Czech Flexorettes are nice as well. If you want to start expanding beyond Japanese and German TLRs, those are nice as well.
Yeah, sure.
We do need to wind down. We've reached our 2-hour limit here for the day. It's like I said, it's been great to have you guys on here. Some new faces, some familiar faces. Thanks for coming on, John. Thanks everybody else. Happy birthday, Pat Casey.
Thank you.
We don't have a topic yet for the next show. It will go back to our normal recording time. So that should be April 6th, Monday at the usual time. As you know, once we have a better idea of what we're going to discuss, we'll make sure to include that in the show announcements. But as always, the topics and discussions on the Camerosity podcast are influenced by you. We depend on our listeners to help join us and steer the discussion, ask questions, share us with your gas, inspire others. So thanks everybody for coming, and I hope everybody has a good rest of their week.
Stop recording, is it?
Does it say recording to this computer?
Not at the moment. Oh, no, it does. It says recording.
I think that might just mean that Mike is recording it.
Recording too, but we've done it before.
Yeah, well, it's giving me options now to pause and stop recording, so I'm assuming that means it's recording.
All right.
And if you go into your documents folder, are you on a PC or a Mac?
Mac.
No, I don't know.
Hey, Vlad, did the film ever arrive?
Yes, it's arrived, and my postman has a hernia.
How much stuff was in there?
It was like 40 pounds of stuff.
40 pounds of stuff.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, tons of film and maybe about 15 cameras and 10 lenses. So I'm really happy they didn't lose it.